Welcome back, Sogni creator. Josh here, and today we're going to be diving into the world of photorealistic portraits. But we're going to do things a little bit differently this time. Instead of you following me along as I go through the iterative process, I've already generated 4 portraits in different styles, and I'm going to kind of show you my thought process that I used to generate them and the settings I use. So check this out. The great news is it's really easy to make photorealistic portraits in Sogni. Now, in terms of models, I use the Sogni XL model because it's a really good, well-rounded model for all of this. It can do nice artistic things, but it can also do some really nice photorealistic portraits. And if you scroll over, you can see all of these sample images. And of course, as always, if there's one of these photos that you like and you want to do one in that style, you can click here to restore all of the settings, and then you can see exactly what was used to generate it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and open up our gallery, and I have these 4 photos of different styles and types, and I'm going to show you the prompts that I use to make them. So let's just jump into the first one. If I wanted only some of the settings, I can just click here to see information about it, and I have the prompt, the style, the negative prompt or the avoid prompt, the seed, all of these settings in here, and I can individually choose one of them from there. Or if I just want to grab the whole image, I will restore all settings. And we have a Swedish businessman in his 20s. And I always, unless I forget, I always start off a prompt with the main subject of the prompt. So in this case, it's a Swedish businessman in his 20s. And then where is he? He's sitting in a restaurant patio. Any other attributes about him? So in this case, I want him to look confident. The background is a city background. I want him to look sophisticated. And then in almost every photo, if I'm doing a portrait, I'm going to put in perfect eyes, because eyes are the number one thing that you've got to get right if you want it to look photorealistic. If eyes don't look right and everything else looks right, it's not going to fool anybody. So that's all we have for the main prompt. Let's look at the style prompt. We have close-up, candid, urban, authentic, environmental, and that has to do with kind of the lighting. Shot with a portrait lens. I did the Canon L series lens, which is their high-end lenses. I like to say Canon L series, or sometimes I'll say Sony G Master, and I'll name the very high-end lenses that these manufacturers make. And then I put an editorial photo. So I want a photo that's like good enough to go in a magazine. Let's minimize that and take a look at the avoid prompt. And this is a pretty standard negative prompt. If you click the question mark here, you can open up and see negative prompt examples. We have malformation, low res, bad anatomy, all of those kinds of things. And then we also, for realistic images, we want to add in cartoon, CG, 3D, Unreal, animated illustration, that kind of things. I didn't do it exactly as it was, but it's pretty much the same. I also added in weird eyes because in this photo, I really wanted it to make sure it gets the eyes right. I did 40 steps and a guidance of 4.9. For photorealistic images, I generally don't go above a guidance of 5, because if we do a higher guidance, and we can actually just test this out. If I take the guidance up to 11, and I were to generate some more images using all of the same settings, first we wait for the model to initiate, and there it goes. And immediately we can see that these are more contrasty, more saturated, and that's just not what we want in a photorealistic look. So if we bring this back down to, let's say 4.5, and imagine again. And this is the same image that I did generate, and that's because we have the seed is not on random. If this were blue, then we would be doing a random seed, but if it's not a random seed, then one of the 4 images will just use the exact same seed, and that's why we get the exact same image. So if I were to click randomize, then we would not see the same image again. And there you have it. We have 4 new images this way. So for this one, we were doing a professional photo, kind of urban in the city and a morning style. Let's go to our next photo. And we have this image of a Nepali woman. So I'm going to click here to restore all settings. And in this case, we have wise, elderly Nepali woman, perfect eyes, deep wrinkles, extremely detailed skin, weathered look, serene smile, bright, colorful Nepali clothing, golden jewelry, mala beads, golden hour lighting, and namaste. I don't know if namaste did anything, but it just kind of gives it a vibe. And the reason I chose a Nepali woman in this case is because Nepal is my favorite country that I've visited. And now let's open the style prompt. And here we have National Geographic editorial photo, candid, outdoor, environmental, professional portrait lens. So a little bit more simple on the style prompt. And if you want to generate photos that showcase different cultures of the world, then adding in National Geographic editorial photo is a great way to kind of get high quality images that showcase that in a flattering way. And then going to the avoid prompt, it's pretty much the same as the previous one. I think there's a little bit of things that are changed, but yeah, basically the same. Malformation, bad anatomy, bad hands. There's no hands in this image, so we could actually take those out. And again, as you can see, if I click imagine again, we get very similar photos, but they all look great. And you may notice that the previous photo of the Swedish businessman had 40 steps. In this case, it's 32. That's a pretty close range, but you can kind of play around with it and kind of find what works for you. Now let's take a look at the next one. So this one is a very different style. And I wanted this photo to kind of look like an older photo, but one that was still taken with a nice camera, but just a long time ago. So you can see that it's a lot more grainy in the background and it looks a little bit aged. We have old cowboy with beard, piercing eyes, deep wrinkled, exhausted, weathered look, sorrowful eyes in the Rocky Mountains, looking at the camera, golden hour lighting, and low contrast. And I often find if I put a specific location in it, in this case in the Rocky Mountains, instead of just saying in the mountains, doing something specific often will get me a better result. So that's what I did in this case. And then for the style, we have black and white, obviously, analog film, candid, outdoor, environmental, Farania film, which is an old film company, a film manufacturer, faded film, grainy, Kodachrome, stained, found footage, 35mm lens, film artifacts, and foxing. Foxing is where you get kind of like blotches and artifacts that you see on the images. There's a little bit here kind of in the noise and the grain, and basically the exact same avoid prompt. I'm going to minimize the avoid prompt. And here, 32 steps, the same as the Nepali woman, and we have a guidance of 3.5, so a little bit less guidance. And that was because I really didn't want much contrast in it, because when it ended up being more contrasty, it made it look like a newer photo, and I didn't want it to. So you can see pretty clearly that even taking the guidance up to 6.6 just makes it way over contrasty. So that's why we had it all the way down that low. Now let's take a look at our last photo. Open up the gallery again and restore all settings. And let's go through it. We have gorgeous woman with freckles, perfect eyes, wearing a sun hat, white dress, beach background, sun shining through hair, extremely detailed skin, and perfect focus. And this one turned out very, very nicely. It even did a great job of making her left eye perfectly in focus, but her right eye is just slightly out of focus, which is what would happen if you had a very shallow depth of field and you're taking a professional photo like this. And then in the style, we have close-up, cinematic, sultry, professional model, professional portrait photography, 4K, sunset lighting, candid expression, shot with a portrait lens, and photorealistic. We could say sunset lighting, we could say golden hour lighting. Either way would get us pretty similar kind of photos. I think adding cinematic to it even makes it look a little bit more candid, because if it's cinematic, then it's probably not, you know, a studio photography image, and that's why I added that. And for this one, we did 40 steps and 3 guidance. And that's a pretty similar process that you would go through with generating any kind of photorealistic image. And like I said, in this case, I used Sogni XL, but if we view all models and we clicked the camera here, then we can see all of the models that are good at generating photorealistic images. So some of them can do both art and photos. So you can see something like Art Universe XL, which can generate, you know, this a photo of some croissants. There's a photo here of a woman. You go back here. A really good way to start off when you're doing this is to check out the different models and check out the guide images that are in them until you find one that's pretty similar to the style of photo that you want. Not like the content of the photo, but the photographic style. And that should be all you need to get started. And there you have it, the key to generating photorealistic portraits with Sogni. Now, I would love to see what you generate, so go generate some different images, different emotions, different locations, different styles, and make sure to share them in our Discord. The link is always in the description, so go join us there. Thanks so much for creating with me. I'll see you next time.